Good morning, Fairley.
Good morning, Sharon.
Your husband upstairs. Good morning, Lucy.
Morning.
Good morning, Essie.
Good morning.
This call is being recorded.
Good morning, everyone, and we welcome you to our Sunday morning roundtable discussion. Today is Sunday, July 23rd, 2017. We are recording from the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent from the United States of America, Plainfield, New Jersey. And this morning, I will have Tom read Mrs. Eddy's prayer given at the Massachusetts Metaphysical College.
Oh. Oh my God, I offer as a consecrated gift upon thine altar a heart dedicated to thy service, lips speaking only words of charity, love, truth, thoughts striving to be only the true thoughts of the mind of God. Help me to endure unto the end, strong in the faith, powerful in the truth, all the influence that I can bring to bear, all the force of tongue or pen that is mine, I offer in thy service. May heaven help, consecrate, and accept.
And then from miscellaneous writing. We today in this classroom are enough to convert the world if we are of one mind, for then the whole world will feel the influence of this mind, as when the earth was without form, and mind spake, and form appeared. Our lesson subject this morning is truth. Golden text from Psalms. Thy word is true from the beginning, and every one of thy righteous judgments endureth forever. And then I just wanted to say from responsive reading, the Lord is nigh unto all them that call upon him, to all that call upon him in truth. Today I really want to get into this topic, truth. I know that I always thought I was very good and very honest, and it took me a long time to realize that either one of those statements is true about myself. Either good, not divinely good, humanly good, or truly honest, although I tried to be honest. And you will find that if you do not get this right sense of truth, it can block your healing, because it's a form of self-deception. So it's very important that we understand that we call upon him in truth. So I would like Linda to find what she wrote on the forum that Mrs. Wilcox wrote in her address.
Okay, from Martha Wilcox. Quote, a personal sense of honesty is always better than dishonesty, but honesty as a personal virtue is merely a sense of personal goodness, and it is devoid of the principle of honesty. It requires understanding on our part to discern between honesty as God's idea and a false sense of honesty, which is a lie of personality endeavoring to make itself equal with God. A personal sense of honesty seeks to glorify persons. But in Christian Science, our one motive for being honest is to glorify God. End quote. There was actually a part. You want me to do the second part?
Go ahead.
All right, quote. And then a second part that came from the same section was, quote, the temptation to be satisfied with human recognition and appreciation often prevents the honest striving for the things of spirit, which is so essential to continued progress and further good. End quote.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to hear comments on this. What does this mean to you? Or, do you feel in your heart you are totally honest with yourself, with God, and with others?
Certainly a lot more than 4 years ago, I know that. I had to lie to myself quite a bit just to get through the day before coming here, so I don't feel that way anymore.
And how do you lie to yourself?
Well, that personalities I was around, that they were good for me, that I was doing right in life, basically.
And yet you deeply felt otherwise deeply?
Oh, yeah. I felt like I was being torn apart because of trying to make everything work, I guess. That's why that Unite My Heart thing came here.
Yeah, you wanted to speak any more about that?
Oh, I love that because I feel that since coming here, my heart was really torn in a lot of pieces before coming here, and I feel it, together, and I feel on the right track. I never thought I would be able to feel that way. Very grateful for it.
Thank you. And it shows, even though you're trying to deceive yourself into thinking things are true that aren't true, maybe that your marriage is great when deep inside you think maybe it isn't, or that, just other things that you're not honest about. It does. There's a sense of tearing you apart because deep inside you're denying something, and yet you are trying maybe for appearance sake to keep it up. Thank you, Jeremy. Who else?
I felt that at times too, and for me, this false sense of truth comes in the form of self-justification, where something comes up, I find myself arguing in my own mind, but I am okay, I'm doing right. Look at all these things I've done, and all of the reasonable things that come up to justify my position. But it's all self-centered, because after all, like the Golden Text says, thy word is true from the beginning. And I know when I'm in that mode, I'm not humbly and silently asking God what it is that you have to say here, and I'd be much better off if I did. But only by doing that would I really be truthful.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
I think it's honest. It's important for me now to be honest with myself about how I feel about something. No matter what it is, it's easy for me to maybe say that I feel okay with something when I don't. And if I'm honest, I'm finding with myself when I don't feel right about something, that will cause me to go a little bit deeper to ask God, what He says about the situation, rather than just ignoring it and letting something grow worse.
Thank you. For instance, you're invited somewhere, and maybe you really don't want to go, but everyone in your family or friends or something do and think that you should, and so you go and try to convince yourself that it's the right thing to do, while deep inside you really don't. So, and when you do this is denying your spiritual sense. This is denying God's voice to you. And that's why you have to be honest. You have to face up to your real feelings, to be in touch with how you feel, not how everyone else feels, but how do you feel? Jeffrey?
I was just thinking of Shakespeare's quote, "This above all, to thine own self be true," and wondered what that meant for a long time, but this conversation is shedding a lot of light on it. I think there's a divine sense we have deep inside, and then there's a personal sense we have. So, two are in conflict, obviously. You have to put one in ascendant, and that's the divine sense. Be true to yourself to that divine sense.
Yes, and what's the rest of that quote, do you know?
There canst not then be false to any man.
Yes. As it follows the night the day, thou canst be not false to any man.
And what that means is that the best thing you can do for anybody is to be true and honest to yourself. Try to be nice to anybody.
I find that, being in between in any way, in any sense at all, is what creates some sort of a friction and uneasiness. And the more I say, well, Father, what do you say? And endeavor to do only His will is where the peace is. Otherwise, any sense of being torn one way or the other is unrest.
Thank you.
I just remember my dad was really tired, and my mother had a whole bunch of people over for some social thing. And all he wanted to do was go to sleep, but he didn't. And he was kind of like non-communicative with people, bit surly, got in an argument with my mother, and and then he said, well, I feel like I have to be here, And I'm sort of talking in a human sense, but then maybe it helps us in the spiritual sense. So then I remember my stepdad, similar thing. So many years later, but he just went to bed. No apology.
Well, that's right. And did your dad bless anyone by being there in that state of thought?
Well, it's fascinating. He's a Christian Scientist. My stepdad was not, but
there you go.
my father blessed no one, So
that's right. I used to do that all the time, and inside, was miserable, resenting I was there, and yet kind of, as Bruce was saying, justifying, well, I got to be here. It's my right place. I'm being loving, but not being true to myself. And because of that, you create an atmosphere that people feel. You're much better off being true to yourself and doing what you feel is right, whatever that is.
Also, if you're involved in an organization, there are a couple of things I've been involved in, and people expect you to keep on doing all these things, but I've had to be honest and say, no, sorry, I can't do that anymore because I'm too busy working for my church.
Well, yeah. Well, whatever it takes to get yourself out of situations that you don't feel are right for yourself. And if you make a mistake, God will tell you that too. You'll find out. But
well, I'm not being rude. I'm just being definite.
Well, that's wonderful.
And people respect that.
They do. I don't know how many of you, there have been many of you I know who have, not wanted to tell someone, maybe you're on vacation, and maybe say, well, I'm going to take an hour and call in for church. Because you didn't want to, I don't know, upset your friends because you were going to church for an hour. But then you found out when you did it, everyone understood, and maybe they went on, did whatever they wanted to do. It was okay. It's an okay thing to do if that's in your heart to do. Today we're very blessed. We have Linda here with us.
From Massachusetts.
From Massachusetts, yes. The other Linda. We have two Lindas, one with a Y, one with an I. From Massachusetts. But she took time out of her traveling schedule to come see us, and we're very grateful for that. Yeah, yay, Massachusetts. So, anyway, anyone else along this line? Being honest?
Yeah, this is Essie.
Hi, Essie.
Hi. I really want to be honest, but I don't think I am. No matter how hard I try, I don't think I'll ever be under. That is bothering me because it's like I'm fooling God. No, maybe I am, but deep down myself, I keep on asking, well, what should I do? Because my family, my people, they are, I don't know how much I can give. This is honestly from my heart. And though I keep on saying, casting error and others, I'm still afraid. I love God, but I'm afraid. And it's giving me a lot of thinking. And I don't know. Sometimes I panic. Sometimes I'll be okay. And then another day, something else comes to my mind. Then I'm off again the track. What is worrying me now?
Well, and it's good to find out what are you afraid of. Most people who have that are actually afraid of God. So you have to get rid of your old beliefs, your old theological beliefs as to what God is, a man of wrath, punishment, and understand what he truly is, a God of love, without condemnation. And memorize and work with Mrs. Eddy's definition of God, so it replaces your false sense of him. There's nothing to be afraid of, not in science. God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind.
I think sometimes when you are taught a different sense of God and then you come to science, that could be a part of all this.
Absolutely.
Because there's a period of having to unlearn, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And the giving up, going more into what's true through science. That's probably sometimes the underlying the sense.
I think that's right, Florence, because I know I've even had to, coming out of the Boston sense of science, I've had to unlearn. And when you're at the point of like unlearning or giving up a false thing, it can be for a few moments or days or whatever. It can be a little unsettling before you're really firmly settled in what the truth really is. So it can be a little anxiety or whatever as you unlearn and give up things that you had clutched to you and grasp the truth. Because it is by faith that we walk.
Yes, you have to start off accepting things that maybe you were taught that weren't true. And this is the renewing of your mind and casting off the old man for the new. But always, if you are afraid, stop and ask yourself, what, why, what is going on here? And God will tell you, but otherwise it just keeps you running. You can't. You've got to stop and face it. Error is a coward before truth, Mrs. Eddy says.
Error doesn't want you to see the truth, and it'll try it in any way, at any time. And you just stay smarter and say no.
Thank you very much. That is a very important point, because in the lesson in Science and Health, Mrs. Eddy says, error would have itself received as mind, as if it were real and God created as truth. But Christian Science attributes to error neither entity nor power, because error is neither mind nor the outcome of mind with a capital M. Error wants you to think the things that aren't true are true. It's a deceiver. It's a charmer, as someone said recently to me. It will try to come in whatever pose it will get you to receive and believe in. That is why you spend time knowing the truth.
Isn't a lesson this week, or I read maybe Bill Fox, that it pretends that it's your mind?
Absolutely.
So that's where the problem comes in. Is you think it's you in your mind, and it's not. It's claiming to be your mind.
Thank you. And that's the personal sense of mind, rather than the mind of Christ, the mind of God. That's why simple rule of thumb is to ask yourself, is this a thought from God that loves me? You know, Bob wrote something beautiful on the forum this week, too, about statutes. When you stand in the statutes of God and stand ye still and see the salvation of God, very important, and the importance of knowing what the truth is. Linda wrote, too, about how exhausting it is when you're not honest with yourself. It's exhausting putting up a false front. If you're exhausted all the time, ask yourself, are you being true to yourself? Are you doing what God would have you do, or are you just trying to be something you're not?
You know, I wondered about that, and then I realized that since we lend belief power, then that's why it's exhausting, because we're trying to force these things into being, and they're not supposed to be there.
Yeah. Good.
I also wanted to say about being fearful. Sometimes it's the givens that we accept. I know when I was married before and the marriage wasn't doing well, I took it as like a sign of my impending failure, that I didn't do something. But it wasn't supposed to succeed. You know, it wasn't started from the right place. So that I had to give up that assumption that it was failure or success.
Well, that's good. Thank you very much. And there, Mrs. Eddy's talked about this too. There's a tendency, either you're like a hardened sinner and everything just bounces off you. Otherwise, you're this martyr who feels responsible for every problem in the entire universe and blames yourself for them. And of course, both are a personal sense of a selfhood apart from God, which is quite liberating when you cast that old man off. Anyone else about this?
Yes, one thing that has been really helpful lately is that I know I'm not 100% honest with God. And when I was down in Plainfield, I picked up collected writings by, Clear Correct Teachings and Complete Writings by Herbert Eustace. And for once, I'm going from the front to the back of the book instead of starting at the end and going backwards or whichever. And he has such a wonderful outline of how to even recognize there is a God and what God is. He goes very nicely through step by step on the different attributes and the synonyms of God. I think it would be really helpful to this person. In my own sense, it has, because it's giving me a clearer view of God. And as Mrs. Singletary said, he's not God of wrath and to be feared, but who God really is. And it's made that connection better, I feel.
Thank you. Yeah, the Eustace book is wonderful. I know one form of dishonesty that I indulged in was, this pretense of being loving, being nice and being loving. And it wasn't true love. It was either a very personal sense of it, or I wasn't actually loving. I might have been resenting or jealous or other things going on inside. But because I was a nice little Christian Science girl, I would put on that front of being loving. And that was just dreadful. Talk about dishonesty. And I didn't know I was doing it. I thought I was doing science, but you can't just say it and pretend. You've got to feel it. So if you have anyone you resent or are jealous of, you come to terms with those negative thoughts. Get where you truly do love. You don't ever have to love error, but you love the person, as we talk about. You separate the error from the person. Love the person. The error deserves to be condemned and destroyed. It's animal magnetism. But you've got to do this. Otherwise, you're living a hypocritical life, which is, again, it blocks your healing. I couldn't understand why I was having troubles and things weren't being healed. This basic dishonesty.
You only harm yourself by harboring these things, not getting them out.
So, Bruce, tell us about the story in the lesson this week. You wrote about it on the forum.
Yeah, I thought it was so interesting that Jehoshaphat approached the king of Israel and says, let's go inquire the word of the Lord. I mean, who wouldn't say yes to that? But instead, the first thing he did is he gathered around him 400 so-called prophets that he knew in his mind they were going to agree with everything that he said, regardless of what it may have been. And I thought, how would you like to be one of those 400? You just said, oh, yes, 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 you're right. And the reason they did that is because they were fearful, I'm sure, of displeasing somebody else. But whereas Micaiah, who stood alone, one man, all by himself, but with his Maker, and he was even punished for his position, thrown in jail. Yet, he was proven to be right, because he did not sacrifice his conscience. He was honest with himself, with his God, and with his fellow man, whereas the other people were, I'm sure, fearful of their personal positions, whatever they may have been. At the sacrifice of honesty.
Yes. You know, I looked up, because in the lesson it says about the prophet have spoken it presumptuously, arrogantly, willful, in bold defense of conscience, with groundless and vain confidence in the divine will, insolently. So, you were speaking against the Lord when you're talking presumptuously. And do you surround yourself with only people who agree with everything you say? Are you willing to open your mind to correction, rebuke, or not? Always important. What does Mrs. Eddy say about rebuke?
And in charitableness, forgiveness.
Yes.
Rule for motives and acts.
Yes, that's the rule for motives and acts. And what else? If someone corrects you.
If there's any truth in it,
If
there's any truth in it, I'll take it. If not, I'll drop it and go on.
That's it. And believe me, I'm always very grateful for constructive criticism. Always. That's been love your enemies, too. It can be your best friend, those who tell you the truth. And she talks about friends who just don't tell you the truth and only tell you what you want to hear.
This will perpetuate. It grows worse there.
Yes. And therefore, if you are a true friend to anyone, you have to tell the truth, not in a mean or cruel way, or not in a offensive way, but in a way out of some love to help, who is telling of the foe in ambush.
One of the writers on your website uses the analogy you're knocking poison, I think, out of someone's hand. See it as that.
Excellent.
You wouldn't let your friend drink poison.
It's a good way to think of it. That's exactly what you're doing. And you feel that, because when you speak out of love, the rebuke, you know your rebuke will reach that person.
And as a result, you have nothing to fear.
Even if it's not seen as, a loving, cautionary thing, it later will be seen as such.
Yes, yes. Just now, I'm going to refer now. A few weeks ago, I read a letter from someone, partly a letter from someone that evidently he had known or remembered Gary from years ago when Gary we lived in the Boston area. Gary was attending the Cambridge Church up there. And he sent us some very interesting things. And one is an article called Isaiah's Job. And it was written by an Albert J. Nock. It says it was an influential American libertarian author, educationalist, theorist, and social critic and early historian. So I'm going to I'll have Gary just read a few excerpts from it. Just read the text. Okay. All of the text.
Okay. In the year of Uzziah's death, the Lord commissioned the prophet to go out and warn the people of the wrath to come. Tell them what a worthless lot they are, he said. Tell them what is wrong and why, and what is going to happen unless they have a change of heart and straighten up. Don't mince matters. Make it clear that they are positively down to their last chance. Give it to them good and strong, and keep on giving it to them. I suppose perhaps I ought to tell you, he added, that it won't do any good. The official class and their intelligentsia will turn up their noses at you, and the masses will not even listen. They will all keep on in their own ways until they carry everything down to destruction, and you will probably be lucky if you get out with your life. Isaiah had been very willing to take on the job. In fact, he had asked for it. But the prospect put on a new face on the situation. It raised the obvious question, why, if all that were so, if the enterprise were to be a failure from the start, was there any sense in starting it? Ah, the Lord said, you do not get the point. There is a remnant there that you know nothing about. They are obscure, unorganized, inarticulate, each one rubbing along as best he can. They need to be encouraged and braced up, because when everything has gone completely to the dogs, they are the ones who will come back and build up a new society. And meanwhile, your preaching will reassure them and keep them hanging on. Your job is to take care of the remnant. So be off now and set about it. Everyone with a message nowadays is eager to take it to the masses. His first, last, and only thought is of mass acceptance and mass approval. His great care is to put his doctrine in such shape as will capture the masses' attention and interest. The main trouble with this mass man approach is its reaction upon the mission itself. It necessitates an opportunistic sophistication of one's doctrine, which profoundly alters its character and reduces it to a mere placebo. Meanwhile, the remnant, aware of this adulteration and of the desires that prompt it, turn their backs on the prophet and will have nothing to do with him or his message.
So what's it saying here?
If you have any good message, it's not going to appeal to the masses.
Right.
And it's important to know your audience.
Know your audience.
But also not to get discouraged and turn away from the God-appointed mission.
Absolutely.
It's not the quantity, it's the quality.
Thank you. Thank you. These are important points with the work that we're doing, because at times, it's been recommended that we water down things or appeal to the masses.
Or rewrite Science and Health.
Yeah. As someone once did. But anyway, yeah, rewrite it so it's more understandable.
Can I just say something for just a few minutes?
Okay.
Very few.
It's a good thing I'm here because, honestly, I'm learning something from Plainfield. Without that, I don't even know if I should be around by now. So being here is no problem, nothing at all. Hearing even your voice laughing is a healing to me. But as soon as I quit, that's it. That's why it's like I just keep on calling my practitioner, because anytime I hear something like support, everything is gone. As soon as I sit down to do something, it will come back to my mind again. And secondly, how do I listen or know this is the still small voice talking to me?
Thank you, Essie. Well, you know because of the peace it gives you. And I know when I once felt that way, that I could only think positively when I was reading or talking to my practitioner or whatever. I learned to take up my hymnal and sing, sometimes at the top of my voice. I memorized hymns. I thought about the words. It helped keep my thoughts on God. Singing is a form of praising and thanksgiving, and it is very healing. And so you try that, work with that. If you're having trouble thinking correctly when you're not listening to your practitioner, when you're done, start singing hymns. Someone once told me to start at the beginning and sing at least 7 a day. I began memorizing them because that helped me focus. It takes some discipline of thought, but as I said, God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And one of the interpretations of a sound mind is a disciplined mind. So you work at it. No one ever said it would be easy, especially when you had a habit of thinking all over the place, which I certainly did have that habit. I had to unhabit myself. And no, Mrs. Eddy says, the habitual struggle to be always good is what?
Unceasing prayer.
Thank you, Karen. Unceasing prayer. That's the only habit any of us have, is that habitual, and she says it's a struggle, to be always good.
I think the main thing here is not to be discouraged because you're doing it. But I tell you, it didn't take me just a few, years. It's taken a long time. But no matter what, if you stick with it, your desire is true, you will get the reward.
Yes, you will. And that's the tool of the devil, discouragement. And often, right before you're about to make great victories, it will try to get you to give up or change gears. You keep on. That song, we used to sing it in our church. Maybe we'll sing it again. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high. And don't be afraid of the dark. Yeah. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the mist, walk on through the rain, so your dreams be tossed and blown.
Anyway, you get the picture.
Yes, there's another song I would sing, okay? That's why I know at least part of the words. I don't know I was exactly right, but that's songs you sing to yourself. His eye is on the sparrow. Sing those songs. Encourage yourself in the Lord.
And there's, it's always darkest just before the dawn. So when it seems the most dark, hang on. And also, when when error is cornered, when it's backed into a corner and it knows that it's about to be extinguished is when it puts up its fiercest fight.
That's why you don't get discouraged if it gets worse before it gets better. It often does get worse before it gets better. So be prepared. It's testing you. Oh, you say all this stuff? Well, we'll see. Let's have a little more rain going on this test.
It took, I mean, honestly, it took me a long time. It took a while anyway, before, you know, even after I got to this church, to realize that we're in a warfare. I didn't want to do battle. I didn't want to have to go to war. I thought life was supposed to be nice. And I got sloomed. And I couldn't discipline my thinking. It was only when I accepted the fact that there is a warfare going on. So accept it, deal with it, and, get the right tools for the job. And be willing to fight to protect my consciousness, to protect my life. That's what's at stake here. Once I accepted that there was a battle going on, then really everything started to change.
It's very good that Mrs. Eddy explained animal magnetism.
Yeah, because the battle is what?
Your consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, the battle is the Lord's. And the battle is mental. It's not a battle of people.
Yeah, and it's always wanting you to believe that there is a power apart from God, whether it claims it's a person, place, or thing. There's some power apart from God. It wants you to believe that. And if it gets you, if it mesmerizes you into believing that, it's gotcha moment. So you question it. And if it's not good, it's not of God.
I'd like to read a verse from Habakkuk.
Okay.
So it says here, though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vine, though the olive crop fails, and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen, and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord, and I will be joyful in God, my Savior.
Thank you.
Good. Perfect.
And why should you do that? Why not?
Our lesson, right? Florence wrote about it. And she said that we had to be grateful. It was one of the citations, and on those giving numbers of fun.
Right. But again,
because we're grateful for life, for truth, and for love, regardless of what the outward appearance might be.
and by knowing it, you will bring the outward appearance. You will change that outward appearance to what is the truth. It might not happen overnight, but it will happen. But if you fall under it, then, well, it's not good. And then you're going to even have a bigger hole to pull yourself out of. So I always remind myself that this happens. Go ahead.
By having that faith, you get manna in the wilderness for 40 years.
That's it. Yep. They were certainly grumbling along, so.
Same food every day.
I know.
Throughout the year.
I know.
40 years.
I know it. And, this idea, we were talking about that to be grateful. It's on the forum, I can't quote it exactly, but Mrs. Eddy says to every moment of every day to acknowledge all the good that's coming to you, the source in God, and to be grateful for it will do more for you than anything else can. That cements this connection to God. The uniting of your heart to God is this continual gratitude. And, the really good workers that I've known have been that way. They're tough on error. They're tough as can be on error, but boy, are they grateful the rest of the time. They're always thanking God and always seeing the good. So it's a combination of both. And just, I don't want to let that remnant thing slide away because it's very important. You know, someone tried to tell me that unity was mass mesmerism. Now, that's just absurd. Mass mesmerism has nothing to do with unity. Unity is the one mind in God, and that's something very different. And usually the remnant is in some way connected with that one mind, one purpose. They're receiving directly the divine power, maybe because what they're doing is so unselfish. And there are many all around. The article brings out how in the Bible, when, who was it, Elijah, or one of them thought he was the last one left. And God said, no, there are a whole lot of others. Don't worry about it.
There are 7,000 more.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, yes. And so it is. So we must never get discouraged and keep on working with joy, nor try to water down the message or think that Mrs. Eddy's message needs to be watered down to appeal to the masses. It does not. It won't work. It will not work. You go to all that trouble to do it, and they still won't get it. Trust me, I've tried.
Well, Christian Science is the truth, and truth is absolute. And
yes.
So it can't go any other way.
Right.
That's it. It is absolute.
And the remnant gets it.
Yes.
Yeah, and anyone who truly desires to will get it if they're patient and work accordingly.
Thank you.
With an open heart.
Yes.
The watering down in Boston of science, was it kind of downfall? Trying to, and I could see how I tried that myself, thinking, oh, they're doing it in Boston, I can do it too. And, skipping through life, it was a big, fat, dishonest lie. I mean, it really was coming here when we talk about honesty. It's not always fun to be honest, but it certainly it heals. And I didn't get any healing by being dishonest.
Yes. Bare your soul before God. He knows everything anyway, so you can't try to trick him or think you can cover things up. You just are totally honest. And when you are, healing does come. Healing is possible. Truth is such a major point in science, something we must revere and respect and live up to as much as is within us. Now I'm going to have Gary read again from our article, What Prospers Healing by Keaston. Let's see how far we get. But
Here.
if we can.
Okay. Okay, this section is entitled Intellectuality versus Spirituality. Mary Baker Eddy had much to contend with in her day with, quote, intellectuality, what we call intellectualism today. Joseph Mann, a treasured student of our leaders, has preserved the essence of some of these instructive trials that even today obscure in greatest measure a proper understanding of the woman and retard the healing progress of our cause. Plausible intellectualists was the term employed by Joseph Mann in describing those opposers of Mrs. Eddy's day that through their own human concept, quote, intelligence in matter, resisted the true spiritual sense of Mary Baker Eddy, the right sense that is so necessary to seeing her as God sees her. This spiritual sense, based in gratitude and reverence for her, is essential for success of healing and growth in our church. Do not believe what I say regarding this. Find out for yourself. Study what our leader has said and written. Read what her early loyal students, some of the finest healers, knew and said about her in the periodicals and in their correspondence. It is all there for those with eyes to see. In his Reminiscences of Mary Baker Eddy, Mr. Mann relates, I saw in the beginning how foolish and futile it was to tell Mrs. Eddy something plausible. My heart could only be honest around her. Mr. Mann speaks from his experience as a student of Mary Baker Eddy. In regard to the factionists of his day, he spoke of their, quote, conceit of intellectuality, which they believed superior to Mrs. Eddy's spirituality, end quote. Have you ever seen this reminiscence by Joseph Mann or his 1923 class instruction? Why not? Why does the field not have access to these invaluable records concerning our leader? Why have these insightful items been kept from the field? Remember our leader's warning. The enemy tries harder to hide Mrs. Eddy's true light and life from the world than to win any other points. Memoirs and reminiscences of John Salcho, Henrietta Chanfreux, Joseph Mann, just to name a few, have been kept from the field. The only way one can see this information is to physically travel to Boston, request permission to read the particular item from the archives, and even then, one may not be able to view it, or if they can, they cannot take notes. Why hide these accounts containing wonderful lessons of such spiritual import? Yet our church is perfectly willing to promote in as wide a manner as possible humanistic interpretations by those who never knew our leader and who certainly have not demonstrated understanding of Christian Science on a par with those who worked in our leader's vineyard. Why? What purpose does this serve except to obscure further Mrs. Eddy's true light and life?
Thank you. It certainly goes along with our discussion on truth. And just so, because I know sometimes I think people think when we have a discussion like this that we are resentful toward the BOD. We are not resentful toward the BOD, but the truth has to be exposed, doesn't it? And it's in the lesson. When needed, tell the truth concerning the lie. Evasion of truth cripples integrity and casts thee down from the pinnacle. We have to expose it. Mrs. Eddy says, error exposed is 2/3 destroyed, and the final third destroys itself. We don't personalize it or see us in any person or even a church. It's animal magnetism that would try to destroy Mrs. Eddy's science, which of course it can't. But it must be exposed, and many people don't know this, so we let them know, so they do know the truth. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. But it's not because we're resentful or we have to talk about it in a mean kind of spirited way. It has nothing to do with that. That's that nice sense that doesn't understand what it is to tell the truth and to be unafraid to tell the truth. So we will now have a powerful service on the truth. And thank you all for joining us at our roundtable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Let's begin our service by singing hymn number 2. A glorious day is dawning, and o'er the waking earth the heralds of the morning are springing into birth. In dark and hidden places there shines the blessed light. The beam of truth displaces the darkness of the night. Hymn number 2. The scriptural will be given by Betty from California.
I will read from Philippians. Therefore, my brethren, dearly beloved and longed for, my joy and crown, so stand fast in the Lord, my dearly beloved. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say, rejoice. Let your moderation be known unto all men. The Lord is at hand. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, And if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace shall be with you. Now unto God and our Father be glory forever and ever.
Let us now have a moment of silent prayer and follow with the Lord's Prayer and its spiritual interpretation as given in the Christian Science textbook. Our Father, which art in heaven. Our Father, Mother God, all harmonious.
Hallowed be thy name.
Adorable One.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom is come. Thou art ever present.
Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven.
Enable us to know, as in heaven, so on earth, God is omnipotent, supreme.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us grace for today. Feed the famished affections.
And forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors.
And love is reflected in love.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
And God leadeth us not into temptation, but delivereth us from sin, disease, and death.
For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever.
For God is infinite, all power, all life, truth, love, over all and all. Let's now sing hymn number 423. Give me, O Lord, an understanding heart, that I may learn to know myself in Thee, to spurn the wrong and choose the better part, and thus from sinful bondage be set free. Hymn number 423. Welcome to the Sunday morning service of the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. We begin each Sunday morning here at 10 a.m. with our roundtable discussion, which is a training session in Christian Science. And we just finished a really good one, so if you missed it, please log on to our website, plainfieldcs.com, where you will find it. We also have a Sunday school for children every Sunday at 11 a.m., and that class is conducted via teleconference so that any child anywhere in the world can attend. And if you don't live in the area and have a child who would like to attend, please call us. We'll give you the number, and your child will be most welcome. And at all of our services, we have a nursery available for infants and toddlers. And on Wednesdays, we have a testimony meeting at 8:15 where you can hear testimonies of healings and lives changed through the study and practice of Christian Science. And you can find us not only here in Plainfield, New Jersey, but you can also find us on our website, plainfieldcs.com. We have a channel on YouTube, and you can find us on SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can listen to all of our services either on our website, on YouTube, or from your telephone via a teleconference number that we provide. I'd like to point out on our website an article that is featured on the home page entitled A Christian Scientist's Duty by Herbert W. Eustace. If you've ever wondered what your duty is, and it's appropriate not only for Christian scientists, but for everybody. So I would encourage you to read. It's short and to the point. Everyone is welcome here, and that includes all of you who are listening and participating from around the world. We will now have the reading of a testimony from the chapter entitled Fruitage in Science and Health, which attests to the healing power obtained by studying the Christian Science textbook. And that reading will be given this morning by Jeffrey from New Jersey.
Page 696 from Science and Health, Fruitage. Fibroid tumor destroyed. When quite young, I was impressed that the Bible was not properly interpreted by the preachers. For I could not conceive of a God of wrath who was unjust enough to allow his little ones to suffer pain, misery, and death. I had hope, however, that someday the truth would be revealed to an awakening world, but little did I dream that even then there was one of God's noble women who reflected sufficient purity and holiness to entertain the angel of his presence and commune with the true God. I was believed to be predisposed to scrofula, so that I was not a strong or attractive child, and my girlhood and womanhood were scarcely ever free from dread of the laws of matter and lack of strength. The climax was reached when a physician informed me, after weeks of treatment, that I had a fibroid tumor, which required an operation. The conditions were most trying, and I was heartsick and discouraged when, in January 1893, I heard of Christian Science through a letter from a dear sister who had been greatly benefited thereby, and I resolved to go at once to a practitioner. For I believed it to be the long-lost truth that would make me free. It'd been a great deal of effort and sacrifice for me to go to Chicago at that time, but divine love opened the way, and I reached there in March. I had been in my sister's home but a few days, reading Science and Health almost constantly. When I asked her if I had not better have treatment for the tumor, which had given me so much trouble, she said to me, "Well, you feel well, do you not?" I assured her that I never had felt so well as I had since reaching there. "Well," she said with decision, "your tumor is gone, for God never made it." And her statements were true, for it has never been heard of from that day. Since then, I have been healed of chronic sore throat, hay fever, and other troubles, and I know that Christian Science is the truth. BWS, Coldwater, Michigan.
The lesson sermon for this morning can be found on page 8 of the Independent Christian Science Quarterly. Subject, truth. The golden text is from Psalms. Thy word is true from the beginning, and every one of thy righteous judgments endureth forever. The responsive reading is from Psalms. The Lord is righteous in all his ways, and holy in all his works.
The Lord is nigh unto all them that call upon him, to all that call upon him in truth.
He will fulfill the desire of them that fear him. He also will hear their cry and will save them.
The Lord preserveth all them that love him, but all the wicked will he destroy.
My mouth shall speak the praise of the Lord, and let all flesh bless his holy name forever and ever.
For the word of the Lord is right, and all his works are done in truth.
I will read from the Bible. Psalms. Teach me thy way, O Lord. I will walk in thy truth. Unite my heart to fear thy name. Deuteronomy. The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, and of thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And if thou say in thine heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord hath not spoken? When a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord hath not spoken. but the prophet hath spoken it presumptuously. Thou shalt not be afraid of him. 1 Kings. And it came to pass in the 3rd year that Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, came down to the king of Israel. And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, Inquire, I pray thee, at the word of the Lord today. Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, about 400 men, and said unto them, Shall I go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And they said, Go up, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of the Lord besides, that we might inquire of him? And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, There is yet one man, Micaiah, the son of Imlah, by whom we may inquire of the Lord. But I hate him, for he doth not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. And Jehoshaphat said, Let not the king say so. Then the king of Israel called an officer and said, Hasten hither Micaiah, the son of Imlah. And the messenger that was gone to call Micaiah spake unto him, saying, Behold now, the words of the prophets declare good unto the king with one mouth. Let thy word, I pray thee, be like the word of one of them, and speak that which is good. And Micaiah said, As the Lord liveth, what the Lord saith unto me, that will I speak. So he came to the king. And the king said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall we forbear? And he answered him, Go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And the king said unto him, How many times shall I adjure thee, that thou tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of the Lord? And he said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills, as sheep that have not a shepherd. And the Lord said, These have no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. And Micaiah said, If thou return at all in peace, the Lord hath not spoken by me. And he said, Hearken, O people, every one of you. And a certain man drew a bow at a venture, and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness. John. And Jesus said, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice. I have many things to say and to judge of you, but he that sent me is true, and I speak to the world those things which I have heard of him. They understood not that he spake to them of the Father. Then said Jesus unto them, When ye have lifted up the Son of Man, then shall ye know that I am he, and that I do nothing of myself. But as my Father hath taught me, I speak these things. And he that sent me is with me. The Father hath not left me alone, for I do always those things that please him. And he spake these words. Many believed on him. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, If ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. 2 Corinthians. Therefore, as ye abound in everything, in faith and utterance and knowledge, and in all diligence, and in your love to us, see that ye abound in this grace also, providing for honest things, not only in the sight of the Lord, but also in the sight of men. Examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Jesus Christ is in you, except ye be reprobates? But I trust that ye shall know that we are not reprobates. Now I pray to God that ye do no evil, not that we should appear approved, but that ye should do that which is honest, though we be as reprobates. For we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. These words spake Jesus, and lifted up his eyes to heaven, and said, Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. Farrelly from Maryland will now read.
Science and health. Christian Science brings to light truth and its supremacy, universal harmony, the entireness of God good, and the nothingness of evil. The spiritual sense of truth must be gained before truth can be understood. This sense is assimilated only as we are honest, unselfish, loving, and meek. In the soil of an honest and good heart, the seed must be sown. Late in the 19th century, I demonstrated the divine rules of Christian Science. They were submitted to the broadest practical test, and everywhere, when honestly applied under circumstances where demonstration was humanly possible, this science showed that truth had lost none of its divine and healing efficacy, even though centuries had passed away since Jesus practiced these rules on the hills of Judea and in the valleys of Galilee. I have set forth Christian Science and its application to the treatment of disease just as I have discovered them. I have demonstrated through mind the effects of truth on the health, longevity, and morals of men. And I have found nothing in ancient or in modern systems on which to found my own, except the teachings and demonstrations of our great Master and the lives of prophets and apostles. The Bible has been my only authority. I have had no other guide in the straight and narrow way of truth. If Christendom resists the author's application of the word science to Christianity, or questions her use of the word science, she will not therefore lose faith in Christianity, nor will Christianity lose its hold upon her. If God, the all-in-all, be the creator of the spiritual universe, including man, then everything entitled to a classification as truth or science must be comprised in a knowledge or understanding of God. For there can be nothing beyond illimitable divinity. There is no physical science, inasmuch as all truth proceeds from the divine mind. Therefore, truth is not human and is not a law of matter, for matter is not a lawgiver. Science is an emanation of divine mind and is alone able to interpret God aright. It has a spiritual and not a material origin. It is a divine utterance, the Comforter which leadeth into all truth. An inquirer once said to the discoverer of Christian Science, "I like your explanations of truth, but I do not comprehend what you say about error." This is the nature of error. The mark of ignorance is on its forehead, for it neither understands nor can be understood. Error would have itself received as mind, as if it were as real and God-created as truth. But Christian Science attributes to error neither entity nor power, because error is neither mind nor the outcome of mind. Truth fosters the idea of truth, and not the belief in illusion or error. That which is real is sustained by spirit. Truth makes no laws to regulate sickness, sin, and death, for these are unknown to truth and should not be recognized as reality. Belief produces the results of belief, and the penalties it affixes last so long as the belief and are inseparable from it. Truth, life, and love are the only legitimate and eternal demands on man, and they are spiritual lawgivers, enforcing obedience through divine statutes. Controlled by the divine intelligence, man is harmonious and eternal. Quote, "Whosoever shall deny me before men, him will I also deny before my Father which is in heaven." Unquote. In Christian Science, a denial of truth is fatal, while a just acknowledgement of truth and of what it has done for us is an effectual help. If pride, superstition, or any error prevents the honest recognition of benefits received, this will be a hindrance to the recovery of the sick and the success of the student. Ignorance of the divine idea betrays at once a greater ignorance of the divine principle of the idea. Ignorance of truth and love. The understanding of truth and love, the principle which works out the ends of eternal good and destroys both faith in evil and the practice of evil, leads to the discernment of the divine idea. When needed, tell the truth concerning the lie. Evasion of truth cripples integrity and casts thee down from the pinnacle. It is Christian science to do right, and nothing short of right doing has any claim to the name. To talk the right and live the wrong is foolish deceit, doing oneself the most harm. A grain of Christian science does wonders for mortals, so omnipotent is truth. But more of Christian science must be gained in order to continue in well-doing. You should practice well what you know, and you will then advance in proportion to your honesty and fidelity, qualities which ensure success in this science. When the illusion of sickness or sin tempts you, cling steadfastly to God and His idea. Allow nothing but His likeness to abide in your thought. Let neither fear nor doubt overshadow your clear sense and calm trust that the recognition of life harmonious as life eternally is can destroy any painful sense of or belief in that which life is not. Stick to the truth of being in contradistinction to the error that life, substance, or intelligence can be in matter. Plead with an honest conviction of truth and a clear perception of the unchanging, unerring, and certain effect of divine science. Then, if your fidelity is half equal to the truth of your plea, you will heal the sick. Truth is affirmative and confers harmony. All metaphysical logic is inspired by this simple rule of truth, which governs all reality.
Let us now have a moment of silent prayer for our world. Let's now sing hymn number 161. The words of this hymn are by Mary Baker Eddy. It matters not what be thy lot, so love doth guide. For storm or shine, pure peace is thine, whate'er betide. Hymn number 161.
perfect wisdom of our God, revealed in all the universe, all things created by His hand and held together at His his command. He knows the mysteries of the seas. The secrets of the stars are his. He guides the planets on their way and turns the earth through another day. The truth and wisdom of his ways that mark the path of righteousness. His word a lamp upon my feet, his spirit teaching and guiding me. And oh, the mysteries of the cross, that God should suffer for the lost, so that the fool might shame the wise, and all the glory might go to Christ. Oh, grant me wisdom from above to pray for peace and cling to love, and teach me humbly to receive the sun and rain of your sovereignty. Each thread of sorrow has a place within this tapestry of grace. So through his truth I choose to say, your perfect will in your perfect way. Your perfect will in your perfect way.
Let us now sing hymn number 343. Thou art the way, to thee alone from sin and death we flee, and he who would the Father seek must seek him, Lord, by thee. Hymn number 343.
from the Christian Science textbook, the Scientific Statement of Being, and the correlative passages from 1 John, 3rd chapter. There is no life, truth, intelligence, nor substance in matter. All is infinite mind, and its infinite manifestation, for God is all in all. Spirit is immortal truth. Matter is mortal error. Spirit is the real and eternal. Matter is the unreal and temporal. Spirit is God, and man is his image and likeness. Therefore man is not material, he is spiritual. Behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. Therefore the world knoweth us not, because it knew him not. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself, even as he is pure. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Amen.